He saved a billionaire's daughter. And love lifted him out of poverty. But nobody warned James that wealth has its own kind of hunger. And power attracts enemies the way light attracts insects at night. Now the same city that once mocked him is smiling at him, not because they love him, but because they're waiting for him to fall. And when a hidden secret crawls out of the past, James must choose peace or the truth, love or fear, silence, or the kind of courage that breaks families and builds legends. Before we continue, if you're new to this channel, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. The stone mansion was beautiful. Too beautiful. It had tall gates that looked like they could swallow a bus. Cameras on every corner. Glass walls that reflected the sky like a mirror. But James Okoye discovered something in his first week there. House can be big and still feel like a cage. He stood by the window of the guest wing. His new room, watching the city lights blink like restless eyes. Behind him, Grace brushed her hair slowly, smiling like a girl trying to convince herself she was safe. "James," she said softly, "you're thinking again." He turned and forced a smile. "I'm just adjusting." Grace walked closer and held his hand. "You saved me in the bush," she whispered. "Now let me save you from overthinking." James laughed quietly, but it didn't reach his eyes. Because the truth was, ever since he entered wealth, he could feel the air watching him. Not the cameras. People. The staff greeted him respectfully, but their eyes carried questions. Is he truly worthy? Is he truly clean? Is he here for love? Or money? Even the cooks watched his plate like they were measuring how much a poor man could eat before he became too comfortable. James tried not to care. But at night, when the mansion became silent and cold, he remembered his old one-room apartment. The cracked floor. The leaking roof. Peace. That peace was priceless. Now everything was polished and suspicious. That morning, Mr. Richard Stone invited James to breakfast. They sat at a long dining table that could feed 10 families. Mr. Stone looked calm, dressed in white, sipping tea like a man who owned time. Grace sat between them. And James sat like a visitor in a dream. Mr. Stone placed his cup down gently. "James." "Yes, sir." Mr. Stone's voice was soft, but it carried power. "I'm not just grateful you saved my daughter." James nodded. "I'm grateful, sir. I'm giving you something," Mr. Stone continued. "Not as charity, as purpose." He slid a brown file across the table. James opened it slowly. Inside were documents, land ownership, company registration papers, a letter with an official stamp. Grace leaned forward excitedly. "Daddy is giving you your own auto company," she said. James' throat tightened. "Sir, this is too much." Mr. Stone shook his head. "This is not too much. This is the beginning." James stared at the papers like they were hot. An auto company. Real one. Not a small roadside shed. This was what he used to pray for when his hands were dirty with engine oil and disappointment. He looked up. "Why?" Mr. Stone's eyes held something deep. "Because men like you don't come often." Then Mr. Stone paused. And for a second, his calm face cracked. "Also, because my enemies are watching." Grace stiffened. James' heart sank. Mr. Stone leaned back. "The day you saved Grace, you didn't just save my daughter." He lowered his voice. "You stepped into my war." James swallowed. "What war, sir?" Mr. Stone didn't answer immediately. He simply looked at the window, as if the glass could show him the past. Then he said, "There's a man who hates me so much. He doesn't care who gets hurt." Grace's hand squeezed James. "And James," Mr. Stone added. "He is back in the city." James felt his stomach drop. Grace whispered, "Who, Daddy?" Mr. Stone's voice came out like a warning. "Victor Dazuki." The name landed on the table like a heavy stone. Even the air seemed to pause. James didn't know the name, but he could tell from Grace's face. This was not a normal enemy. This was the kind of enemy that smiles while destroying you. Mr. Stone stood up. If you truly love my daughter, he said, then you must learn the rules of this world. James looked down at the file again. Company, future, target. And in that moment, James understood something painful. In the poor world, danger comes with hunger. In the rich world, danger comes with gifts. That night, James lay beside Grace on a bed that felt too soft. Grace rested her head on his chest. "We'll be fine," she whispered. James kissed her forehead. "By God's grace." But the moment he closed his eyes, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Congratulations on entering the mansion. Now let's see if you can leave it alive." James' blood turned cold. He didn't show Grace. He just held her tighter, because he suddenly realized. Part 2 had begun. Started like a whisper. The next morning, James went to inspect the new auto facility Mr. Stone had gifted him. It was beautiful. A real workshop with modern equipment. Workers already waiting. A signboard being mounted. Okoye Motors Ltd. James stood there stunned. He looked at his hands. Hands that once held only spanners and suffering. Now those hands were signing official documents. Samuel, his old mechanic friend, ran into the place like a child. "James, see LIFO. God has done it." James smiled. But even as he smiled, he felt eyes on him. A black SUV parked across the road. Tinted glass. Engine running. No movement. Samuel noticed it too. "Who be that?" James forced calm. "Maybe security." But deep inside, he knew it wasn't. And then it happened. Around noon, phones started buzzing. Workers paused. People began murmuring. Then one of the office assistants gasped loudly. "Ha!" James turned. "What?" The assistant held her phone with shaking hands. "Olga, they done post something." James stepped closer. The screen showed a trending video. Blurry clip. A man who looked like James, same height, same shape, standing near a bush. Another clip of a girl being carried. A voiceover on the video said, "This mechanic kidnapped the billionaire's daughter and pretended to save her." James' mouth went dry. Samuel shouted, "Lies!" But the comments under the video were like knives. "See him. Talk him. Nah setup. Poor people they do anything for money. Arrest him. Mr. Stone must be blind." James' heart pounded. The video was edited, manipulated, but it looked convincing enough to destroy him. Then another post followed. A fake investigation thread. Screenshots, fake voice notes, a fake confession. By evening, James' name was everywhere. Not as a hero, but as a criminal. Grace called him repeatedly. "James, where are you?" "I'm at the office," James said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Come home now," Grace pleaded. "Daddy is angry. The media is already outside." James closed his eyes. "Grace, I didn't do anything." "I know," she cried. But people don't care about truth when scandal is sweet. When James arrived at the mansion, cameras flashed like lightning. Microphones were pushed toward his face. "Mr. Okoye, did you kidnap Grace Stone? Are you using her for money? Is your marriage fake? Were you paid to stage a rescue?" James wanted to shout. He wanted to scream. But he remembered his mother's voice. "If you shout in anger, you will lose your dignity." He walked in quietly. Inside, the mansion felt like a courtroom. Mr. Stone stood in the living room, holding a tablet, watching the video again. Grace stood beside him, crying. The staff stood at a distance, pretending not to listen, while listening with their whole bodies. Mr. Stone looked at James. His eyes weren't the eyes of a billionaire. They were the eyes of a father who feared his daughter had been fooled. "James," he said slowly. James swallowed. "Sir." Mr. Stone walked forward. "I defended you once," he said. Grace sobbed. "Daddy, it's not true." Mr. Stone raised a hand to silence her. And that silence was scarier than shouting. He faced James again. "Tell me the truth," he said. "Look into my eyes." James did. "I saved Grace," James said. "I didn't plan anything. I didn't know who she was." Mr. Stone stared at him for a long time. Then he whispered, "This video, it was made by someone who knows my past." James frowned. "Sir." Mr. Stone's jaw tightened. "Victor." Grace cried harder. Mr. Stone paced like a lion. "And James," he said, "if Victor wants you finished, he won't stop at videos." As if on cue, the lights flickered. Then the generator kicked in. Then a guard ran in, breathless. "Sir, there are people outside." Mr. Stone's eyes narrowed. "How many?" "Plenty," the guard said. "They are chanting. They are calling him." He pointed at James. "A liar." James' chest tightened. Outside the mansion gate, a crowd had formed. People with phones. People hungry for drama. People who didn't care if a man died emotionally. Grace held James' arm. "Don't go out," she whispered. But James was already shaking. Because this wasn't just online anymore. This was real life. And his life was now entertainment. Mr. Stone turned to James and spoke with a voice that chilled the room. "From today, you will not move anywhere without security." James nodded slowly. But inside, he knew something else. Security could protect his body. But who would protect his name? That night, James couldn't sleep. He sat on the bed, watching Grace breathe. He wanted to cry. But tears refused to come. He felt like a poor man again. Not because of money, but because of powerlessness. Then his phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A new message. "Tomorrow we will take the girl again. Then you will beg." James' hands trembled. This wasn't just scandal. This was a plan. And he had only one thought. Not Grace. Please, not Grace. The next day started too normal. That's how danger behaves sometimes. It wears a clean shirt. Grace was in the mansion garden, trying to breathe fresh air. James stood close with 2 security guards nearby. Mr. Stone had increased protection around her. Cameras, guards, gate checks. Everything looked tight. But James felt uneasy. Because if someone could manipulate a video, they could manipulate a human being too. Grace smiled at him, trying to lighten the mood. "Remember our old Gary days?" she teased. James tried to laugh. "Don't remind me. Before your father will say I brought you suffering." Grace's smile faded. "Do you ever regret saving me?" James stared at her. Question hurt. "Never," he said. "Even if it costs me everything." Grace's eyes shone. She leaned forward and kissed his forehead. Then her phone rang. A new number. She frowned. "Hello." James watched her expression change. From confusion, fear. "Grace," he called quickly. She dropped the phone. Her lips parted as if she wanted to speak, but no sound came out. James grabbed her shoulders gently. "What did they say?" Grace's eyes filled. "They said," she whispered. "They said they have Mama Ruth." James froze. The world tilted. His mother. In the village. The woman who prayed over him with cracked hands. Grace's voice shook. "They said if you don't leave me, they will make your mother suffer." James' heart broke right there. Because now the war had touched his home. Mr. Stone rushed out when he heard the commotion. "What happened?" James looked at him, voice trembling. "They threatened my mother." Mr. Stone's face became stone. "Victor," he said. "He's playing dirty." Grace was crying. James clenched his fists. He was poor once, yes, but he wasn't weak. "I'm going to the village," James said. Mr. Stone snapped. "No, that's what he wants. He wants you alone." James shook his head. "That's my mother." Mr. Stone held James' shoulder firmly. "Listen to me," he said. "We will send trusted security. Quietly. No drama. No calls. No noise." James nodded slowly, but his chest was burning. That evening, Grace insisted on going with James to Mr. Stone's private office. "Daddy, please," she begged. "Tell him everything. James deserves to know." Mr. Stone stared at them for a long moment. Then he sighed like a man opening a locked room in his heart. "Victor Dazuki," Mr. Stone began, "was once my brother." James blinked. Grace's mouth opened in shock. "Brother?" Grace whispered. Mr. Stone nodded. "Not by blood. By struggle." He leaned back. "We grew up poor. Together. We promised to rise together." James listened carefully. Mr. Stone continued. "When money entered my hands, Victor changed. He wanted shortcuts. He wanted dark deals." Grace swallowed hard. "And Mommy?" she asked quietly. Mr. Stone's eyes became wet. "Your mother discovered something Victor did. Something that could destroy him." The room grew cold. "She tried to stop him," Mr. Stone said. "And then," he paused. His voice lowered. "She passed away shortly after." Grace covered her mouth. James' heart pounded. "You think Victor?" James began. Mr. Stone's eyes burned. "I don't think," he said. "I know he was involved. But I had no proof." Grace sobbed softly. "And now," Mr. Stone continued, "Victor believes you are the key to my weakness." He looked at James. "And you? You are the easiest way to reach her." James' stomach tightened. "I didn't choose this," James whispered. Mr. Stone nodded. "But you are here." Then Mr. Stone's assistant burst into the office, panicked. "Sir, there's an emergency." Mr. Stone stood instantly. "What?" The assistant's voice shook. "Madam Grace, she is not in her room." Grace blinked. "I'm here." The assistant shook his head violently. "Not that, sir. Someone just called the gate and said." He swallowed. "They said Grace is already taken." James' blood turned to ice. Grace stepped back, shaking. "No!" Mr. Stone roared. "Lock down the mansion." Guards ran. Phones rang. Cameras checked. Cars started. But the strangest thing happened. No alarm had gone off. No gate had opened. No one saw anything. It was like Grace vanished inside a fortress. James stared at Grace, still standing there, then realized something terrifying. The call wasn't about now. It was about what would happen next. Then Grace's phone beeped. Video message. She played it with trembling hands. The screen showed a dark room. Chair. A shadowy figure with a calm voice. "Hello, Richard. Your daughter is not the only thing you can lose." Grace screamed and dropped the phone. James grabbed it. The figure continued. "Bring me James Okoye, and come alone." Mr. Stone's face went pale. James felt his heart slam against his ribs. They didn't want money. They didn't want ransom. They wanted him. Then the final words came. "If you involve police, we will embarrass you more than the internet ever did." The video ended. Silence swallowed the room. Grace shook like someone standing on the edge of a storm. James looked at Mr. Stone. And in that moment, James made a decision that scared even himself. "I will go," James said quietly. Grace screamed. "No." Mr. Stone snapped. "Absolutely not." James looked at Grace, eyes wet. "They threatened my mother. Now they're threatening you." He held her hands. "I can't keep watching you pay for my life." Grace cried. "But I love you," James whispered. "Then trust me." Mr. Stone stepped closer. "If you go," Mr. Stone said, voice heavy, "Victor will break you." James nodded slowly. "Maybe." Then he looked at Mr. Stone. "But I didn't become your son because of money." His voice broke. "I became your son because of my heart." He inhaled deeply. "And my heart will not run away now." They didn't tell the police. Not because they didn't want justice, but because Victor had made it clear. This was not a normal battle. Mr. Stone arranged a quiet convoy. 2 cars only. No sirens. No flashing lights. Just darkness and tension. James sat in the back seat, praying silently. Grace sat beside him, holding his hand so tight her nails left marks. Mr. Stone was in the front seat, eyes forward, jaw locked. The location Victor sent was simple. Old dockside warehouse. An abandoned part of the city, where the river smelled like rust and forgotten dreams. When they arrived, the warehouse stood like a dead giant. No lights, no people. Just wind pushing dry wrappers across the ground. Mr. Stone whispered, "Stay close." They entered. Footsteps echoed. James' heart beat louder than their movement. Then a single bulb flickered on, and revealed a man sitting on a chair like a king. Victor Dazuki. He wore a clean suit. He looked calm, like he was watching a movie. He smiled when he saw them. "Richard." Mr. Stone's voice was like a growl. "Victor." Victor's eyes moved to Grace. "My niece," he said softly, almost affectionately. "Still beautiful." Grace stood behind James, shaking. Victor's gaze slid to James. "And you, the mechanic." James held his ground. Victor smiled wider. "I like you," Victor said. "You have courage." Mr. Stone snapped. "Where is Grace's mother? Where is Mama Ruth?" Victor chuckled. Straight to business." He stood up slowly. "Let's not pretend," he said. "You know why I'm here." Mr. Stone's eyes burned. "You want revenge?" Victor nodded. "Revenge," he repeated. "No, Richard." He leaned closer, voice gentle. "I want balance." Then he pointed at James. "You see, this boy is your weakness now." James swallowed. Victor continued. "You built your image on success, on respect, on perfection." He smiled. "And now you adopted a poor mechanic into your family." Victor laughed softly. "The city doesn't know whether to clap for you or insult you." Mr. Stone stepped forward angrily. "Stop talking." Victor raised his hand calmly. "I will stop when you give me what belongs to me." Mr. Stone froze. Grace whispered, "Daddy, what is he talking about?" Mr. Stone didn't answer. James looked between them. Victor's smile sharpened. "Tell them, Richard," Victor said. "Tell your new son what you stole." Mr. Stone's silence became an answer. James' stomach nodded. Victor stepped closer. "You see, James," Victor said, "Richard Stone wasn't always Richard Stone." James blinked. Victor's eyes glittered. "He used to be a small boy with nothing, just like you." Grace stared at her father, confused and scared. Victor continued. "And when the big opportunity came, the deal that made him rich," he smiled. "He removed me from the picture." Mr. Stone's hands clenched. Victor leaned in. "He didn't just betray me." Victor's voice dropped to a dangerous softness. "He buried me alive, in poverty." Grace gasped. James' heart pounded. Mr. Stone finally spoke, voice heavy. "Victor, enough." Victor turned and snapped. "Enough." Then he calmed himself again, smoothing his suit. "Here's the deal," Victor said. "Sign over the old offshore accounts." Mr. Stone's eyes narrowed. "Never." Victor smiled. "Then James will take your place." James' chest tightened. Victor nodded toward the darkness behind him. And slowly, a curtain moved. A woman stepped out. Mama Ruth, James' mother. Alive. Tired, but alive. James' breath left his body. "Mama!" Mama Ruth's eyes filled with tears. "My son." James tried to run, but two large men stepped in front of him. Victor smiled calmly. "Stay," Victor said. "If you move, she gets scared." James stood shaking, anger and fear fighting inside him. Mr. Stone's voice broke. "Victor, she is an innocent old woman." Victor tilted his head. "So was my mother," he said quietly. "But poverty killed her slowly, while you drank champagne." The room went silent. Grace was crying. James was trembling like a leaf. Victor looked at Mr. Stone. "Sign the accounts," he said, "or your daughter's fairy tale ends tonight." Mr. Stone stared at Grace, then at James, then at Mama Ruth. His eyes filled with pain. He was cornered, and Victor knew it. But something happened that Victor didn't expect. James spoke. His voice was calm. "To come." "No, sir," James said, looking at Mr. Stone. Grace turned. "James." James swallowed, eyes shining. "Don't sign anything." Victor's smile faded slightly. James continued. "If you sign it, he will still destroy us. Because this isn't about money." Victor's eyes narrowed. James turned to Victor. "You hate him," James said. "But you don't know me." Victor scoffed. James took a deep breath. "But you will." James looked at Mama Ruth, then at Grace, then at Mr. Stone. And James said something that changed the air. "Take me." Grace screamed. "No." Mr. Stone shouted. "James." James raised his hand. "Please," he whispered. "Let me speak." He turned to Victor. "You want to hurt Mr. Stone," James said. "Use me." Victor stared. James continued. "But leave my mother. Leave Grace." Victor smiled slowly. "And why would I do that?" James' voice broke. "Because I'm not your enemy." Silence. Victor studied him like a puzzle. James added. "And because one day, you will get tired of being bitter." Victor's eyes flashed. "Bitter?" he repeated sharply. James nodded. "Yes." Then, with tears in his eyes, James said, "I grew up bitter too." He pointed to his chest. "But bitterness never fed me. It never healed me." He inhaled. "It only made me tired." Victor's smile vanished. For a second, the calm man looked wounded. Then Victor laughed, coldly. "You're brave," he said. "Stupid but brave." He snapped his fingers. "Take him." James felt hands grab him. Grace cried and tried to fight, but Mr. Stone held her back. Mama Ruth screamed, "Leave my son." James shouted, "Mama, I'm okay." Victor leaned close to Mr. Stone. "Now," Victor whispered, "you will feel what it means to beg." And as James was dragged into the darkness, he heard Grace's voice breaking behind him. "James!" James expected pain. He expected humiliation. He expected darkness. But the place they took him to was quiet. Small room, chair, a single light bulb. Victor entered alone, holding a bottle of water. He sat opposite James. Not like a villain, like a man who had questions. Victor stared at him for a long time. Then he asked softly, "Why did you offer yourself?" James swallowed. "Because I love them." Victor's face tightened. "You love them?" After only a short time, James nodded. "I love Grace," he said. "And I respect her father." Victor laughed bitterly. "Respect," he repeated. "For a man who betrayed his brother." James paused. "I don't know everything," James admitted. "But I know one thing." Victor leaned forward. "What?" James' voice was gentle. "Hate doesn't build anything." Victor's jaw clenched. James continued. "You think you are punishing him." He shook his head. "But you are punishing yourself too." Victor stood abruptly. "Shut up," he snapped. James didn't. "Sir," James said quietly, "I'm a mechanic." Victor turned confused. James continued. "When an engine is damaged, you can respond in two ways." He lifted his bound hands slightly. "You can pour water on it in anger and ruin it completely. Or you can open it carefully, clean it, repair it, give it a new chance." Victor stared at him, breathing hard. James whispered, "Your heart is an engine that has been damaged." Silence. Victor's eyes became wet for 1 second. He turned away quickly. "You don't know my pain," he said, voice shaking. James nodded. "I don't." Then James' voice cracked. "But I know mine." Victor turned slowly. James' eyes were red. "My father died when I was small," James said. "My mother suffered." Victor listened despite himself. James continued. Life embarrassed me. People mocked me. Hunger humbled me. He looked down. There were days I wanted to become wicked. Victor's throat moved. James whispered. But my mother taught me something that saved me. Victor asked, almost against his will. What? James looked up. Light. Victor frowned. James continued. My mother said, even if the world is dark, carry light. Victor stared, silent. James breathed out. You think darkness is strength. But darkness is easy. He shook his head. Light is harder. Light takes courage. Victor's hands trembled slightly. Then his phone rang. He checked it. His face changed. James watched him. Victor said quietly, Richard has sent the account documents. James' heart sank. Victor looked at James. Then looked away. Like a man standing between two roads. He whispered to himself, I finally won. But his voice didn't sound like victory. It sounded like emptiness. Then Victor did something unexpected. He untied James' hands. James blinked. What? Victor raised a hand. Don't talk, Victor said quietly. Just listen. He exhaled shakily. I used to be like you, Victor said. Before anger became my daily food. James stood slowly, rubbing his wrists. Victor's eyes were wet. I wanted to hurt him, Victor said. Because I wanted him to feel my pain. He swallowed. But watching you offer yourself without shouting. Victor's voice broke. It reminded me of who I used to be. James didn't move. Victor stood up, wiping his face quickly as if ashamed. You have 1 hour, Victor said. Go. James stared. You're letting me go. Victor nodded slightly. And your mother and Grace, Victor added. They will be released too. James' eyes filled with tears. Why? Victor looked away. Because I'm tired, he whispered. James stepped forward. Sir. Victor snapped. Go before I change my mind. James ran. He ran like hope had legs. Outside, in another room, Mama Ruth and Grace were waiting. Grace cried and ran into James' arms. Mama Ruth held James' face, sobbing. My son, my son. James held them both. And in that moment, James understood. Sometimes the greatest victory is not fighting. It is saving someone from becoming worse. They returned to Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone was shaking when he saw Grace. He hugged her tightly. Then he hugged Mama Ruth like she was family. Then he turned to James. What happened? Mr. Stone asked. James hesitated. Then said quietly. Victor let us go. Mr. Stone's eyes narrowed. Why would he? James looked at Mr. Stone. Because, maybe for the first time, someone spoke to the human inside him. Mr. Stone went silent. The next day, the internet exploded again. But this time, not with scandal, with truth. Mr. Stone held a press conference and released evidence, real evidence, about the edited videos, the manipulation, the threats. The city watched in silence. Then came the biggest shock. Mr. Stone said on camera, I wronged Victor years ago. The crowd gasped. Mr. Stone continued, I betrayed him in business. Grace held James' hand. Mr. Stone looked into the camera. I will not hide behind pride anymore. He swallowed. I am returning what I took. People murmured. James stared shocked. Mr. Stone turned to the crowd. And about James Okoye. He raised his voice. This man saved my daughter, saved my family, and saved me from becoming arrogant. Then Mr. Stone did something nobody expected. He called James and Grace forward. He held their hands up like a referee declaring winners. My daughter didn't marry down, Mr. Stone said. She married into honor. The city fell quiet. And something changed that day. Not everybody loved James. But they respected him. Because truth has a stubborn way of surviving. Weeks later, James stood in the village, watching new buildings rise. Clinic. Training center. A small scholarship office. Grace stood beside him, smiling. Mama Ruth sat under a tree, holding a cup of tea, eyes shining with peace. Grace leaned into James. "You carried light," she whispered. James smiled softly. "And the light didn't just save us," he replied. He looked into the sky. "It saved even the people who tried to destroy us." Grace squeezed his hand. "And now?" she asked. James exhaled. "Now we build." He turned to her. "Not just a love story, but a legacy." Grace's eyes filled with happy tears. And somewhere, far away, Victor Dazuki sat alone, staring at the river. Not with hatred, but with silence, because for the first time in years, he was no longer hungry for revenge. He was hungry for peace. So if you're listening right now, remember this. Not every battle is won by strength. Some are won by character. Because when you carry light long enough, even darkness starts to get tired. And sometimes, the real miracle isn't the money, the mansion, or the marriage. It's the clean heart that refuses to become wicked. If you watched this story to this end, please give this video a like. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our next captivating story filled with love, lessons, and unforgettable moments. Until our next story,